A young Georgia mother gave a news interview in October of 2022 after her 20-month-old son went missing. Leilani appeared on camera for local news crying, saying that she hoped her baby boy Quinton was found happy and alive. Fast forward 2 years, and she was convicted of his murder on Friday, October 25th. We have put together some previous news reports outlining the basics in this horrifically heartbreaking case.
So the toddler was last seen around 6 this morning in his playpen. Quinton Simon is his name, and as the sun goes down, the search becomes more urgent for that toddler. By air and by ground, the search for 20-month-old Quinton Simon continues. The toddler was last seen around 6 a.m. Wednesday in his Buckhalter Road home. Chatham County PD, Savannah Police's Mounted Patrol, Mosquito Control, and now the Federal Bureau of Investigation among those searching for the toddler. Quinton was last seen wearing a light blue Sesame Street shirt and black pants. He has light brown hair and brown eyes. This road, entire Buckhalter Road, and roads around the area have been closed down for a big part of the day to continue to spread out the search to look for Quinton.
I talked to Leilani as well as her mother, Billy Howell, who were both just distraught over Quinton's disappearance. They say they've been harassed in the days and weeks since Quinton disappeared, but Leilani wants everybody to know that she's not running away.
I'm here. I've been here every day since this. I am not running and I'm not hiding. And if something does come up that I am at fault, I will take myself to that police station.
Chatham County Police have repeatedly said that though they've named Leilani the prime suspect in her son's disappearance and death, they don't believe she's a flight risk. Leilani says that she and her mother, Billy Howell, spend their days in the backyard of their home because it's too difficult to be inside with reminders of Quinton and the fact that he's gone.
Every day that goes by is less tears and more anger, not knowing what's happening, if that's even understandable. You wake up every day angry, hoping that you're going to get a phone call, and that phone call just doesn't come.
CCPD and the FBI haven't released many details in the case and haven't said why they believe Quinton is in a landfill. Police say they're doing that to preserve any potential court cases down the line. Leilani and Billy tell me that they get their new information about the case from watching the news and that they feel all they can do now is hope.
We want something great to come out of this, but mostly we want him not to be found in that landfill. We want him found happy and alive. We want him back in our arms, holding us. That's what we want. We're just hoping that he's in somebody's house and they're feeding him, and they are hoping that, you know, maybe they wanted a baby or couldn't have a baby. Maybe they thought they were his savior. But it's not. That's their best hopes at this point.
Quinton is believed to be dead, and his mother, Leilani, is the primary suspect, but no charges or arrests are made.
What are you doing? What is going on here? Where's the FBI? Where's Secret Service? Somebody needs to find this baby and lock her up.
After that announcement, all eyes turned to Leilani. Protesters, podcasters, and YouTubers gather outside of her home day and night. Nearly 3 weeks after Quinton was reported missing, Leilani and her mother finally speak out in an interview with WTOC News.
We know that this is going to be a physically, mentally, and emotionally grueling task for our investigators and team. Yesterday, our team posted this picture of Quinton here on the wall of this operations center as a reminder of who we are searching for and why we continue to work so terribly hard. We want justice for Quinton just like everybody else, and we want to find his remains so we can give him a proper resting place.
Throughout our process here, our goal has been to bring Quinton home and to hold anyone responsible for his disappearance accountable. We, along with our law enforcement partners, go into this process with heavy hearts. We did not want to end up at this point, but the evidence has taken us here. We are not just randomly searching this landfill. We have evidence, specific evidence, that leads us to this large property. To help in this search, the FBI has brought in specialists from Quantico, Atlanta, as well as all of our personnel here in the greater Savannah area. The FBI's evidence response team, which has experience in landfill searches like this, is heading up part of this operation. At this moment, we have dozens of FBI personnel on scene in support of the Chatham County Police Department. We will have Chatham County and FBI personnel in the landfill each day, conducting a systematic search of the debris. This will be a complex and strenuous effort. Searchers will move through the debris placed on the search deck looking for evidence. Once that debris is cleared, it will be placed on the search deck and then removed and then replaced with another section of material. This will not be quick, it will not be easy, and the outcome is uncertain. As the chief said, we want justice for Quinton, and we want to find him a proper resting place. Again, we share the sorrow felt by millions and promise all of our available resources and expertise to assist Chatham County in finding little Quinton.
We believe that he was placed in a specific dumpster at a specific location, and it was brought here by regular means of disposal.
Is that dumpster at a gas station on 95?
I can't answer that.
Is Leilani Storm still the only suspect?
She is.
You mentioned the other day you didn't believe she was a flight risk. Has that changed?
That has not changed.
How hopeful are you that you'll find Quinton's body?
I have every belief that we will find his remains here at the landfill.
Do y'all know where Leilani is today? And I don't mean right at this actual moment, but do y'all know where she is?
I believe she's still here in Chatham County. We do not believe she's a flight risk.
Authorities sifted through trash at the local landfill for weeks before finding human remains, which DNA tests confirmed to be Quinton.
We'll be willing to take some questions at this time.
You charged Leilani with you guys found bones in the landfill? Is that?
We found human remains, yes ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit about what evidence you all confirmed or learned on Friday led you all to go ahead and make that arrest specifically for today versus earlier on?
Well, as we had said from the beginning with the landfill, we had every belief that Quinton was there in the landfill. Having found what we found on Friday and the preliminary findings from the FBI that we got today led us to make an arrest today. We feel that we have a very strong case. We have put thousands of hours into this, and we believed that this was the right move today to be able to do that. She doesn't deserve a Thanksgiving, quite frankly, if I can go off script a little bit. Quinton deserves that.
You said that you didn't believe any other arrest would be made. Are you guys looking into Billy Joe at all?
We are not. Knowing the hard work that went into this investigation, everybody, not just Chatham County Police Department, but everybody that chipped in, the FBI, GBI, DNR, Chatham County Sheriff's Office, the civilians, you name it, from A to Z, we were 100% committed to bringing justice for Quinton and to appreciate the amount of human effort, the amount of human emotion that goes into a case like this, and to appreciate, hopefully, that this comes to a conclusion in terms of a conviction and things of that nature. You know, you have a lot of emotions about that. You also have a lot of emotions as just a general human being.
While Leilani Storm is still here at the Chatham County Detention Center a little over a week after being arrested on 4 charges, including the murder of her son, Quinton Simon. I did speak to Leilani's mother, Billy Howell, today. Billy was actually the one who drove Leilani to the Savannah FBI office to be arrested, and she says that she hasn't seen or heard from Leilani since then. She tells me that other inmates at the jail have been calling her to update her about Leilani's condition. Billy says that Leilani has been placed on suicide watch.
Leilani Storm pleaded not guilty on multiple charges, including the murder of her son, and she was denied bond.
This court will not consider bond, don't have the jurisdiction or authority to do so.
Quinton lived with his 22-year-old mom, Leilani, and his grandmother, Billy Joe Howell. Howell had custody of Quinton, filed an eviction notice on Leilani and her boyfriend on September 26, a little over a week before Quinton goes missing. In between Quinton being reported missing and Leilani's court hearing, Chatham County Police and FBI agents scoured through a landfill for exactly 1 month until they found what they believe are Quinton's remains last Friday. Leilani, who is currently in jail for Her son Quinton has 2 other young children. Neither were in her custody before she was arrested. While Leilani is behind bars, many questions remain. We still don't know what led up to Quinton's death.
This selfish woman spent the late hours of October 4th and into the early morning of October 5th getting high off of cocaine and Percocet, killing her son, putting him in the trash, and then just going to sleep.
For the first time, we're learning more about the final moments of 20-month-old Quinton Simon's life. In the response to Leilani Simon's special demurrer, the state outlined what happened after Leilani allegedly threw Quinton's body into a trailer park dumpster. Hours after throwing Quinton's body away, a garbage truck came, lifted the trash, and dumped it into a compactor inside the truck. When the load arrives at the landfill, it's dumped on the ground and a bulldozer shoves the garbage 300 feet into different cells. Quote, "This is not a neat process," prosecutors write in their response. They say it requires multiple sweeps by the bulldozers that shove, spread, and smear the contents. Once at the cell, prosecutors say Quinton's body was then compacted again by a 50-ton steamroller. Quote, "All of which is to say Quinton's body went through a lot. By the time the expert searchers found him, after looking for more than a month, his body had undergone severe trauma and decomposition. And it wasn't in just one place. Prosecutors say he was dispersed across the landfill. Quote, a bone here, a tissue there." The basis of Leilani's demurrer for the murder charges is that the state wasn't specific enough in their indictment, but the state argues that an indictment can only be as specific as the evidence. With his body in pieces, prosecutors admit no cause of death has been determined or likely ever will.
Little Quinton Simon was just 20 months old when he was last seen in his home in Savannah, Georgia on October 5th, 2022. He lived with his mother, Leilani Simon, her boyfriend, Danny Youngkin, and his grandmother, Billie Jo Howell. Simon tells police that Quinton's biological father, Henry Bubba Moss, took him, so authorities go to Bubba's home more than an hour away.
He was being questioned about where he was overnight. October 4th into October 5th, and proved to police satisfaction anyway that he had nothing to do with it.
On the issue pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Simon, please state your full name.
Leilani Marie Simon.
Okay. And you're doing the right thing, just talking to the microphone so the court reporter can get it. I think you've heard me give that instruction a couple of times.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so do you personally wish to testify or not?
I do not.
All right.
How often would you drink?
Daily.
How often daily?
As I stated yesterday, about 5 shots of Fireball and 3 to 4 25-ounce beers.
Okay.
I'd go to work and I'd get off work and I'd stop by the liquor store in Port Wentworth on the way back to the house.
Well, what kind of drinker are you? Are you a blackout drinker or a pass-out drinker?
Neither.
Okay. So you just said you didn't remember. You'd already been by the liquor store. I was wondering what going by the liquor store would have to do with affecting your memory.
I just don't have great memory. I used to do a lot of drugs.
All right. What kind of drugs did you used to do, Mr. Youngkin?
Cocaine and marijuana.
In the weeks, days, and hours leading up to October 5th, were you doing cocaine, marijuana, and alcohol?
Not marijuana, but cocaine and alcohol, yes, sir.
Okay. When you did drink and drug, where did you normally do it at?
In the house.
Where at in the house?
On a dresser that was next to the bed.
All right, so you would do it in the room where the kids were?
Unfortunately.
You said the dresser that you put it on was in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you leave it on the dresser? Would you put it on a plate? What would you do with it?
On the dresser, it would be in a bag, or sniff it out of the bag, or put a line on the dresser and sniff it off the dresser.
All right, so and that's kind of the point I'm getting to. It's either in the bag on the dresser and you sniff it from the bag.
The dresser's like this tall.
That's fine. I'm just asking. The point is it was out on the dresser in the bedroom where the children were. That's my point.
Sure.
Were you drinking or doing any drugs that night? Anytime that night?
Prior to 10 o'clock, yeah, prior to when I laid down, yes.
Okay, what were you doing prior to 10 o'clock?
Drinking and the rest of the little bit of coke I had.
All right, so you were drinking and doing cocaine up to 10 o'clock. And is that why you sent her to 204 to get some more?
I didn't send her to 204. She was the one who said she wanted to go to 204. That's in the text messages.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Who would normally get the drugs, you or her?
That were her people.
All right. And would y'all share drugs, or
Yes.
would you keep it separate?
Share it for the most part.
All right. So if you got some cocaine or some weed or some sets,
I didn't get her.
all right. But if you got cocaine, you'd share.
Yeah.
And if she got it, she'd share.
No.
No.
No. She was selfish.
How did it work? Who brought the kids to your house?
Most of the time, Danny. Once in a while, Leilani.
All right. And how often would the children stay with you?
At first, it was just when they worked. And then it started being overnight. Leilani was paying, but it wasn't like steady. She would pay, and then she would text me later and tell me she needed formula for Sky or diapers, and could she come and get it? And she would pay back when she got paid next time.
What the agreed upon amount was, whether you were actually getting that or not?
It was like $25 here, $30 there. One time I think she paid $100. It was just different amounts.
Okay.
Because she would tell me she didn't have it or she had to do this.
So is it fair to say that you and your daughter were being paid a lot less than the normal going rate for childcare?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Zane stayed a handful of times. Quinton stayed a lot.
And why is that? Why would Quinton stay overnight?
Honestly, Quinton loved us. He was close to us. And I just felt like he would be better off at our house because there was a difference in the love she showed between Zane and Quinton. And I felt bad, and I would work, and my daughter would say, "Can we just get him, Mom, because this happened today?" And I would say, "Yeah, call her and ask her if he can stay."
Can you think of some examples of how the defendant treated the boys differently?
Well, she was working at Bojangles, and she had brought food home, and she fed Quinton loved food, and every time he seen a bag, he would want it. He's little. She would feed Zane before she fed Quinton, every time. And I just thought that was strange.
So do you mean she'd give Zane food and make Quinton wait?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
She wasn't physically feeding Zane at that
No, she would give him the food.
Just give him food.
And he would eat, and then Quinton would be, whining and wanting it, and she would give it to him eventually.
Are there any other ways that she treated the boys differently that you noticed?
Just by the way she talked to him. When she would, once in a while that she did come and pick them up, she would, grab Zane and he would hug her because he was close to her. I mean, you could definitely tell it. And then, Quinton, 99% of the time, wanted to stay with us, and he would start crying. Now, if Danny come and picked him up, it was different.
Okay. How did Quinton act if Danny came?
He would go with Danny. He wouldn't cry to stay with us. He loved Danny. He would, Danny would pick him up and he'd hug him.
Did Leilani ever talk to you about how she felt about the boys?
Yes, ma'am. She just, one time, but she just said that she loved Quinton more. I mean, Zane more than Quinton. And, I didn't question it. She's a crappy mom. I knew that. But I just never said anything to her. I would always call Billy Joe when I seen things that was going on.
Okay. Did she ever, in that conversation, did she explain more about, like, Zane had been through things with her?
Yes,
or anything
that
like
Zane had been her ride or die his whole life. And she did not like Quinton's father. On one incident, my daughter was going to our shed, that's where our laundry room is, and she had come running in and saying, "Mama, Zane and Quinton is in the ditch. Well, it was the road on Buckhalter, but the ditch is right here. And Quinton was actually in the ditch, and Zane was trying to get him out. I immediately called Billy Joe.
And observing these kinds of things, did you ever report it to any authorities?
It had been reported. It had happened several times even before we started keeping them that I didn't know about, and it had been reported.
Okay. Do you know what authority, if any, it had been reported to?
DFACS.
And you say it had been reported, so were you aware of somebody other than you reporting it? Okay. And if you could say yes or no.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let's move to the day that Quinton disappeared.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember that morning?
Yes. And around about 5:28, 5:29, I got a text from Danny saying that Leilani was keeping the kids today.
Okay. Now, had that happened before where she would not go to work and the children would stay at home?
No, because even if she didn't go to work, most of the time she sent them to us because she wanted to sleep.
Okay. And how do you know that?
Because, and she would stay at home because one day I had them and me and my daughters were taking them somewhere. And when we rode by, when we got in the car, she was on her front porch. It's like a little porch. And when she seen us, she actually ducked down and hid from us because she was supposed to be at work. But it didn't matter. We loved them, so I would have kept them anyway.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Quinton was like? Like, what did Quinton like? I know he was very young. He wasn't even 2 years old yet. But were there things that he said or things that he liked that you know about?
Yes. He loved cheese. Every time I would get home from work, he would want mac and cheese. And he would go to the refrigerator and he would get my cheese out, my block of cheese, for me to cut it for him. And if I would have let him, he'd eat the whole thing. He loved Blimpie. He loved Bubbles. Anytime we could go to the store and get him Bubbles, he just loved them. He was a very happy baby when he was with us.
The children, when they came to your home, were they sent with clothes, food, diapers, things that they would have needed?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so how was that handled?
Well, Zane always come dressed. Several times we got Quinton and he would be in a long onesie and he would have poop from all over. I don't want to say a baby didn't smell good, but he smelled like rotten milk. He had rings around his neck. We'd immediately bathe him and put him fresh clothes on.
Okay. Did you keep clothes for him at your house?
I did, because I had to tell Billy Joe that she wasn't sending anything for the kids.
So you didn't think she was a good mom, and you were fairly vocal about it, and...
Yeah, I didn't think she was a good mom. Thought she was a shitty mom.
Okay. Well, there you go. Okay. I'm going to ask you, you started watching Quinton in January to February of 2022, correct?
Yes, sir.
And everything you've just told me, I'm going to ask you what you did, okay?
Okay.
Did you ever make any police reports? You?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you ever make any reports to DFACS? You?
I talked to them. Yes, I did.
That wasn't the question. I asked you if you reported what you were concerned about.
No, because DFACS got in contact with me.
That's, again.
No, I did not.
You never reached out, and you weren't concerned enough between January and October to do that on your own, were you?
I was very concerned.
But not concerned enough to reach out and make a report?
I didn't have to. They reached out to me.
In the morning, was it a normal day?
Yes, sir.
What do you remember about the point where it became not a normal day?
I was just breaking through the garbage, and then I had observed a white small object could fit in the palm of my hand. It looked like bone to me, so I remember seeing my Lieutenant Foster, because they were all on the side, and
contacting him, and they came over and removed it.
I'd like to approach with what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit 77. Can you look through here and tell me if you recognize the object that you're describing?
Yes, I do.
Is that it on the first page there?
Yes, sir.
Can you pull this out and display it to the jury, please?
Yes. This is the object that I was talking about.
What do you remember happening from there?
I just remember notifying my lieutenant and then them coming over and collecting it.
And then after that?
We continued to search. Really, any items that we found that we thought were potentially bones, we would put in the buckets for them to collect and to get tested.
Let me ask you this. After having been out there for weeks, going through line after line, tell me what it felt like to see that little piece of Quinton's skull and pick it up and realize what it was.
It was heartbreaking.
Was it rewarding also? I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thankfully, Simon was convicted of this sweet angel's death. We can't wait for her sentencing and hope that she gets the maximum penalty possible.
We, the jury, find as follows: malice murder. We find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We find the defendant guilty.
Judge Tammy Stokes reading the verdict as defendant Leilani Simon stands like a statue with barely any emotion until the jury left the room. Jurors ultimately sided with the prosecution, believing Leilani beat her 20-month-old toddler son to death before throwing his body in a trailer park dumpster and lying about it all for weeks. Prosecutors Tim Dean and Jenny Parker telling the jury Leilani was in the midst of a drug-induced bender when Quinton was killed. The state saying she did it so that men would give her the attention she so craves.
She couldn't get that need fulfilled. She couldn't feel better about herself. So instead, she does something so drastic. She killed Quinton. And in the act of killing Quinton, she became a sympathetic person and got Danny's attention back.
The state presented FBI interviews, text messages, security video, and GPS data that they say showed Leilani was the only adult awake the night of October 4th into the 5th, making her the only one able to have killed the 20-month-old. Defense attorneys Martin Hilliard and Robert Purse taking a very different approach, trying to sow doubt with the jury, not even presenting a defense for their client beyond cross-examination.
The state had to concede that in their closing argument, that they don't know what happened. You cannot speculate someone into a guilty verdict.
Nearly 36 witnesses took the stand. Among the highlights was one of Quinton's babysitters, 17-year-old Talia McCarta. She testified that Leilani was abusive to Quinton.
We would have Quinton for weeks at a time at our house. She never called to check on Quinton. But we never complained about it because we really enjoyed Quinton being at our house, being able to love on him.
Emotions were heavy when Chatham County police officer Sophia Zerke took the stand. She found the first of Quinton's remains, later identified as his skull. And I'm here now at the Chatham County Jail where Leilani Simon sits behind me and will remain until sentencing can happen. Once sentenced, she could spend the rest of her life, or much of the rest of her life, behind prison walls.
What are your thoughts on this case? What do you think the penalty should be for Leilani Simon? Let us know in the comments below.